Now shifting gears to international politics and a very strong message on regional security, Deputy Chief of the Army Staff Lieutenant General Rahul R. Singh highlighted today the evolving threat landscape. Now speaking at FICCI's New Age Military Technologies event in Delhi, Lieutenant General Rahul Singh drew attention to the changing nature of security threats. He emphasized the critical role of air defense during recent operations and also warned that even though population centers remained untouched, this time the next conflict could be different. He also added that India must be prepared to handle the changing nature of the threats. Now, Lieutenant General Rahul Singh also said that India is not just dealing with one enemy here. While Pakistan is on the front lines, it's China that's backing them from behind and providing all the extensive support. He revealed that nearly 81% of Pakistan's military hardware comes from China. He also described how China uses conflicts to test its weapons like a live laboratory, and also noted Turkey's involvement in aiding Pakistan's capabilities during the recent conflict. Now further, General also revealed that Pakistan was receiving real-time updates on Indian military movements from China. Very crucial observation that has now been revealed, and also underscored the need for a more robust and modern air defense system on India's part.
Leadership, the strategic messaging by leadership was unambiguous. You cross our red lines and there would be action, there would be punitive action if required. There is no scope of absorbing the pain the way we did a few years ago. So that is one important message that stands out loud and clear. Second, as far as Operation Sindoor was concerned, the planning and selection of targets was based on a lot of data that was collected, using technology and, I would say, human intelligence. So a total of 21 targets were actually sort of identified, out of which 9 targets we thought would be prudent to engage. When we looked at those 9 targets, and it was not that the 9 targets that we decided upon was a decision which did not change. Till the last day, the targets, there was eye on the targets that were there, and we kept monitoring the locations. It was only on the final day or the final hour that the decision was taken that these 9 targets would be engaged. Few lessons that I thought I must flag as far as Operation Sindoor is concerned. Firstly, one border, 2 adversaries. So we saw Pakistan one side, but adversaries were 2, and if I would say actually 4 or 3 actually. So Pakistan was the front face. We had China providing all possible support, and it's no surprise because if you were to look at statistics, in the last 5 years, 81% of the military hardware that Pakistan is getting is all Chinese, 81% of that. So it's no surprise. And China, of course, the good old dictum, killed by a borrowed knife, 36 stratagems that China talks about, killed by a borrowed knife. So he would rather use the neighbor to cause pain than getting involved in the mud-slinging match on the northern border. So that is what he's seen. And another thing that China perhaps has seen is that he's able to test his weapons against, say, various other weapon systems that are there. It's like a live lab which is available to him. So it's a good, that is what is something we have to be very, very cognizant about. Again, Turkey also played a very important role in providing the type of support that was there. Bayraktar, of course, he's been giving from before. We saw numerous other drones also coming in, landing in the face of war, during the war, along with trained sort of individuals who were there.
Now more guests are joining me on the story. We are being joined by Aditya Rajkol, Senior Executive Editor, TV9 Network. We also have 2 other distinguished guests on this story. I'm being joined by Air Marshal VPS Rana. He's a defense and strategy expert, and also Major General GG Dwivedi, on the story. So thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us here. Now, I want to begin by asking Aditya this. The most crucial point that was raised in the speech was the China-Pakistan Nexus, all-weather allies as they call themselves. I want to understand what was the role that China played during the recent India-Pak conflict, and also how serious is this threat for India, two of our neighbors coming together and increasing their cooperation.
Well, certainly a very significant statement there by Rahul Singh, Lieutenant General Rahul Singh, who is the Deputy Chief of the Indian Army at a FICCI event on new age military technologies. Clearly, penning out what was the learnings from the Operation Sindoor and how China and Pakistan came together. It wasn't really one border and one nation. It was one border and multiple adversaries. In this case, China coming to the aid of Pakistan. That's been an open secret. A lot of military technology, missiles, etc., that were at Pakistan's disposal from Beijing. And apart from that, a well-calibrated plan, perhaps, strategic unity as well, with the Deputy Army Chief also mentioning that during the DGMO talks, Pakistan had at its disposal, live visuals and also details of the Indian military by China. He also went on to say about Turkey's role in providing drones and other military support to Pakistan. So there were multiple adversaries, and yet Operation Sindoor was a massive success. And over the last 5 years, 81% of the military hardware with Pakistan has been Chinese. This is certainly a cause of concern, but also something that Indian Army and the Indian military has been preparing for years together. Of course, Operation Sindoor might have been a success, both against the adversary Pakistani military and the terror groups in Pakistan. But at the same time, there has been feedback, there has been learning experience from on down on ground. And that's what the Integrated Defense Staff and other wings of the military would be looking into, because if there is another such kind of a conflict, we have to be better prepared, even though we met significant success against the adversary this time.
All right, Aditya, thank you for joining us on this story and putting it into perspective for our viewers. Now, let me go across to my other guests as well. VPS Rana, I want to ask you, several important points were raised in this speech, sir. Let's break it down for our viewers. And the first point was that there is a changing nature of threat for India. How was this displayed during Operation Sindoor?
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for getting me. And I think every single word that the General Rahul spoke about, the Deputy Chief of Army Staff, absolutely true. I couldn't agree more than what he said on every issue, whether we are facing one border, three enemies, or we are facing the brunt of all Chinese weaponry at the thing. That's one part. But yes, coming to your question, that how is it that the changing nature is happening? We saw that in Operation Sindoor. It was typically not a typical military operations that we were used to in past. We have seen the extensive use of the UAVs. We've seen the use of the standoff weapons. We have seen the use of missiles. I mean, none of the aircrafts, while it was a air heavy campaign, so to say, yet none of the aircraft crossed border. So every single weapon that was fired, whether for the air defense or for the offense purpose, was from the respective geographies. And so that is a big change in the warfare that's happening. And I think we will continue to see that a standoff weaponry with the kind of capabilities Pakistan today has in terms of missiles, in terms of standoff weapons through aircraft, in terms of only thing that is crossing border today are the unmanned platforms. So none of the manned platforms crossed in this, and I think it will be there for some time unless you get into a much larger and bigger military operation, where in days to come probably then it will scale it up to aircraft going really deep inside. But today we have to be prepared of all these kind of weapons that the China is providing to Pakistan, whether it is in terms of the ballistic missiles or the cruise missiles or the air-to-air missiles. Every single weaponry that China has in its arsenal is available to Pakistan. So in a way, China is fighting its war with us through Pakistan. So the very rightly said so. And this you can see from the point that there has been a report that the F-35 aircraft, or JC-31, which is also called, is being offered to Pakistan, and Pakistan pilots are part of the operational trials. This aircraft is not even operational, and it's a next fifth generation aircraft, and Pakistan is part of it. They have already been offered. So this is the kind of challenge that we are looking at. So every single weapon that the China has in its inventory is actually targeted at us today. Within no time, all this will be available. All space-based assets, like Aditya also said, and the DCS also talked about this, that the entire space-based assets were made available to Pakistan. Our every
Correct.
single movement was known. That's a different fact that despite all this, we did do well. But I think we need to be very, very well prepared, and we need to work on whatever deficiencies that we would have noticed, because the deficiencies noticed on the part of the Pakistan is being corrected by China. And we have to correct our deficiencies, if any there are, and this is going to be the next level of engagement. As and when it comes, we are going to face much, much bigger challenges, and therefore, rightly said, we need to be prepared. The entire spectrum of warfare, from UAV to ballistic missiles to the aircraft. And you need all different kinds of capabilities to engage all these different threats that we have.
Clearly, newer threats are emerging on the scene. Now, let me bring in Major General Gigi Devedi on this. With newer threats emerging on the scene, how is India adapting to deal with new kind of threats? I mean, we need to be prepared for the worst here, right?
Well, first and foremost, these threats have not manifested overnight. They have been work in progress, and in fact, when I was defense attaché in China sometime 2 decades back, this was all in the offing. And the kind of strategic partnership between China and Pakistan is well known. They are all weather allies. And the today's Pakistan military largely is equipped with the Chinese system, and that's what Deputy Chief also pointed out. The second point is that there is total strategic convergence between Pakistan and China as far as India is concerned. And for China, India is the number one adversary after number two adversary after America. So they are playing this game very, very cleverly, and Chinese always think deep. So therefore, they have Pakistan as the frontline state to fight the proxy war, and that's exactly what we witnessed. And this two, front threat is no more a myth. It is a reality, and more than that, it's a reality how two nations came together to fight a particular war or a particular skirmish, I would say. That is one that India needs to take cognizance of. The second is we are only looking at the Pakistan and China capability in two different lenses, but we need to put it together. We are so worried that Pakistan is going to get J-35, but we are not so worried that China, as it is, has 200 J-25th generation aircraft, and as far as we are concerned, our MCA is likely to be reality sometime in 2035. So point I'm trying to make is we need to see China and Pakistan through one lens, see their cumulative capability, see their convergence on the strategic domain, see how they are actually trying to put a ring around India, because today, don't lose sight of other players. Bangladesh, Pakistan, China triangle that is emerging, trilateral. Then there's a Turkey and Pakistan and China trilateral. So point I'm trying to make is we need to take a bigger picture, not that just get stuck with Operation Sindoor. Let me tell you, this is not the last one. There'll be many more that is time to come. The way China is playing the game, the way China is trying to throttle India, the way China is actually targeting us not only on the battlefield, but also soft power. See what is happening on the trade front, how the Chinese are actually trying to squeeze us. So we need to take a total integrated look as to how the whole dynamics have changed and see the total capacity. And my last point is Chinese talk about comprehensive national power. And today we need to see the comprehensive national power of the two nations combined, that is Pakistan and China, and of course other players who are also not very friendly to us in Bangladesh, what's emerging in Myanmar, and of course in Turkey. So my last word is take a good holistic look, strategic look, think deep, don't think event to event, and more importantly, we need to have a very clear national security strategy. We have to have a roadmap as to how this threat is going to be actually manifesting in a more hostile manner. And the last point is security. No one is going to give us security. We need to look at ourselves and we need to ensure that we are well armed, well prepared for the threats that could manifest in next 10, 15 years time. Over to you.
Clearly, we need to take an integrated approach when we look at this threat. It's not just China, it's not just Pakistan, it's China and Pakistan combined, that the threat that India is facing currently. Let me go back to Mr. Rana. Sir, I want to ask you, the Lieutenant also raised a point saying that population centers remain largely untouched this time, but the situation could be very different next time. Help our viewers understand how different the situation could be in the future. What are we looking at here?
You see, generally you target the population centers in the desperation of the warfare. Generally, the professional militaries wouldn't do that until and unless you have reached a level where now you have no choice left, or you are so much on the back foot that you have to now start targeting the population center. But nevertheless, this remains in every warfare we have seen. We are seeing it in Russia, Ukraine. We are seeing it in Iran, Israel, Iran, Hamas. All the even in World War II, the same thing happened. That population centers did become the one of the important targets. And so we have to be really be prepared for that. Now, for a vast country like India to be able to provide that kind of air defense, it will be really challenging. You can see Israel with such a small country to cover up their entire airspace. Even they have been found wanting today, despite a very well set air defense. So once your population centers start becoming the target, then the challenge is humongous. We have to have the capability to detect these threats that are coming at us. They are the threats which are coming at a very high speed today. Now you are getting into the hypersonics, you are getting into the even the ballistic missiles that are coming and targeting you are going to be at a very high speed. We did engage some in Operation Sindoor, but that does not give you a guarantee that every single missile that would be fired from across you would be able to intercept. There would be some which would go through. And in a densely populated country like India, I mean, you can imagine if any of the missile landing up in any population center, the kind of mayhem and kind of havoc that it would create. So we have to identify these challenges and we have to be prepared. And therefore, like General Dwivedi also said, we have to be really prepared for all these kind of eventualities. Probably, the Operation Sindoor happened to tell us that what all is that is needed and where all this warfare could inflate to. Tomorrow, once you go in a full-fledged warfare scenario and your population center start getting targeted, then you have to be prepared. You have to be prepared on the civil defense side. You have to be prepared on the air defense side. You have to be prepared on every kind of this thing where you can really take care of the damages and destruction that is taking place. And they have the capability. So my point is that on your air defense and now the air defense is required in a different manner for a different kind of threat. You have UAVs and you have drones, and then you have hypersonic weapons, and then you have the fighter jets launching the cruise missiles at you from say 300-400 kilometers apart. So the air defense challenges today are phenomenal. We have seen this happening Luckily, on the other side, when our cruise missiles were not detected, or our missiles attacks that happened on the Pakistani targets was not detected. But tomorrow, if we would also be in a similar situation once they start targeting the population center, once the number of targets and the range of target increases, then providing air defense would be a real challenge to such a big country.